Alright guys, next up we have the intermediate sequence. Just getting back from Tabor City, so we'll go over some of the stuff we saw at the contest this past weekend, and also ask the guys on Facebook and got some feedback on some of the stuff they want to see. But first, as we always do, let's just we're going to run through the sequence real quick. Alright, so we're in the box. First maneuver is the 45 with one positive snap. 45. Push to upright, then the split S, 4-point roll and entry. One negative snap on the exit. Alright, next up is the hammerhead. Quarter roll up. Hammer. And half roll, opposite quarter. Push to an inverted exit. And then we got the teardrop. We're going to push to the 45. One negative snap. We're going to push the top, 2-point roll on the way down. Then we got the diamond loop, center box, pull to the 45, full roll. Full roll. And back to upright. Then we got the 90-degree roller. Then the Humpty. Not quite vertical there. It's kind of hard to keep looking over to the left at the sequence, and so we got 3 of 4 left. Pull to an upright exit. Alright, so next we have the goldfish. Let's see, pull to the 45. One full roll. Three-quarter inside loop back to the 45 here. Nothing on the way up. Push to an upright exit. And then we have the double spin. So there's 1 and there's 2. Establish the vertical. And we're going to pull to the 45. Nothing on the 45. And we're going to pull to an inverted exit. Might not have given myself enough space here. That's one of the things we're going to go over. And I've done it because we have this down teardrop here. So I'm going to pull and lose a lot of airspeed here. And then pull to the 45. So we don't hit the ground. Pull to the vertical, half roll, and push to an upright exit, and that's out of the box. Alright, so let's see, a couple of things just in general. We saw a lot of 45s that aren't 45. That's just a common mistake across a lot of the classes because the 45 upline just looks it's not as steep as it, or I mean, it's steeper than it looks. And so just a lot of people not getting quite to that 45-degree angle. And then so that's about it for that one. And then the split S, let me turn around here so we can see the plane a little bit better. The split S, saw a lot of people losing altitude on this 4-point roll because you are high. You don't have as good as a vantage point on your altitude here, but just maybe not enough rudder, elevator correction in that point roll. You may be coming off the throttle a little bit early. Carry your throttle all the way through that 4-point before you idle down for the push. Then you got the negative snap on the exit, which is, well, we went over snaps in the last video. If you haven't checked out Sportsman, definitely go over there and check out the Sportsman video. At the end of the video, I go over snaps and cross-controlled snaps or shoulder snaps, whatever they want to call them. Let's see. A lot of stuff I saw on the hammerhead. Let me get turned around here. I'm going to go the opposite direction here, but the point will still be the same. Saw a lot of people not quite getting to vertical first. Establish that vertical and then quarter roll. If you're lazy on establishing the vertical, well, I did that wrong. The point still remains the same. I'm not really discussing the downline. What we saw was a lot of people, they push to the vertical and they don't quite get vertical, and then they half roll or they quarter roll, and now that just looks way more exaggerated, and then they have to really kick the rudder over to reestablish that vertical and then hammer over. So really fight for establishing that good vertical first. I can't state that enough. Wings level before you push. Push to the vertical. Really establish that vertical first, then quarter roll, and the rest of your upline will be straight. I tell a lot of people all the time, the plane wants to fly straight. Just let the plane fly straight. I see just a lot of overcorrection. In general, this is across the classes. In general, if you've got the plane set up well and trimmed out, it wants to fly straight. My grandfather used to say all the time, let the tool do the work. The airplane is your tool here. Let it fly straight. It wants to fly straight. Establish that vertical, then quarter roll. Make sure your vertical is straight before you quarter roll. Let's see. The teardrop, again, the 45 here being the issue. See a lot of people just not quite getting to that 45-degree upline. And it's harder when it's at the left side of the box like that because of your viewpoint. It's going to look steeper than it really is. And then you want to make this push across the top as big as you can get it. You can see on that on the transmitter to the left, I'm just barely breathing on that down elevator so that you have plenty of time, plenty of room to do that 2-point roll coming back down. And then the other thing we saw was carrying power through that push. So we established that, we do the snap, and then I saw a lot of people, they get here to the top and then it's just a throttle down, and then the plane just loses all its airspeed, all its inertia. You lose the radius of your push. So make sure you're carrying that power all the way through the top of that push to keep that inertia and that airspeed going so that you keep a round radius going across the top. Let's see, the diamond loop. Saw a lot of short and long segments. So anyway, they pull to the 45, immediately roll, and then they fly this extended second line, and then they pull. So you really want to harp on the counting your lines. And so this time we'll go through it and we'll count it. So we're going to pull to the 45, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3. I'm going to roll 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4. I'm going to pull to the vertical, or the next 45. And then we're going to count. You don't really need to count on this. If you start the diamond loop in front of you, then the top of it needs to be in front of you. That can help just visually centering the maneuver. You don't really need to count the second 90 or the second 45 there. And then other than that, just saw a lot of shallow and a lot of steep 45s on that diamond loop. So really work on making sure that diamond loop is you're hitting those 45-degree angles. Some people like to practice, get it like a clear piece of plexiglass, and plexiglass, excuse me, and then measure out and tape 45-degree angles on that, and then you can have somebody hold that up while you fly some 45-degree angles, so you can see what the airplane truly should look like when it's flying that 45-degree angle. And then the next one, we'll spend a little bit of time on this one, is the roller. It's the first roller. You don't have one in sportsman, so guys getting in an intermediate, it's their first experience with the roller, and it kicked everybody's butt this past weekend. And rollers are tough, even though they're like the lowest K maneuver. I see even that one was really ugly. A lot of altitude change there. They're difficult, and one of the things I like to do is I like to start my roller with rudder. So I'm flying along here for this 90-degree roller. I need to go left. So I'm going to start with just ever so slightly breathing on the left rudder as I start to roll. I just did that one. I rolled too slow on that one. Your roll rate really has to be dialed in so that you complete that one full roll in that 90 degrees. I'm used to the unlimited roller, so I'm rolling a little slow here. But the roll's fairly fast for the 90 degrees. So I'm ruddering, elevator, switch the rudder, push. I hope you can watch the sticks on this. It's kind of hard to talk through what I'm doing because it happens pretty fast. And some of the mistakes, let me try to fly a little higher, see it a little bit better. Some of the mistakes are just pulling too hard, then ruddering too hard, then pushing too. It's a lot of over controlling in that roller to try to get it to turn. And you really don't need much control at all. If you don't have a roller set up, I would highly encourage that. But it's rudder, elevator, opposite rudder, down elevator. So hopefully just being able to watch my stick movement through that roller will help. I'll do one to the right. So on the roller setup, I have a switch. So I flipped the switch to get my roller set up. It's less aileron, more elevator, and more rudder. I gained a lot of altitude there. Ugly roller. But the principle is still the same. You can see on the left-hand side, I'm just barely breathing on those sticks. And one of the things, especially with an inside roll like this one, that first input of down or up elevator gets carried longer than you think. I hope that makes some sense. If you watch, I'm actually carrying that up elevator input almost until I'm inverted, and then I'm switching. I have found that helps keep my rollers flatter. And again, this is a simulator airplane, obviously, in a simulator setup. I'm not doing this on my actual roller. I don't have a roller setup on this simulator plane. And this particular plane doesn't require a lot of down elevator. But I think the biggest help is starting the roller with the rudder. So whichever direction you're going, this way I'm going to go right rudder. So I know my next move is left rudder. I don't even have to think about it. It's just opposite whatever I just did. And so you don't have to, in the same way with the elevator, you really only need to think about your first inputs. And then from there, you just go the opposite direction. The first direction is easy. I know I need left rudder. I know I need left aileron and up elevator. So now I know when I need to switch rudder, I just switch the direction. If I started with left rudder, then my next one is right. If I started with up elevator, my next is down, and so forth until the roller is complete. So right rudder, then I switch to left rudder. Up elevator, then I switch to down elevator. I'm going kind of slow there to, oh, I think I ran out of gas, which I didn't know was an option on the simulator until the last video. So I hope some of that's making sense. I'm going to start with rudder. I'm going to switch it. I'm going to carry the up elevator a little bit longer than I think I need to help keep that level flight. And then from there, I'm just switching directions with my sticks. If I started with right rudder, then I know my next input is left. I don't even need to think about it. If I go this way and I start with left rudder, I know my next move is right rudder. I don't even have to think about it. But I highly encourage you to set up a roller switch that you can go to, drastically reduce your aileron throw in that condition, bump up your elevator and your rudder just slightly. You don't need much more, especially if you don't fly with very low rates in general. You might not need to bump it up at all, but the main thing is really dial back that aileron throw so that you can be nice and smooth with the aileron and not have a lot of roll rate change. That's a setup tip that I just can't harp on enough. That'll help you immensely with your rollers. Okay, so let's move on. The Humpty Bump, kind of the same situation as the teardrop. I saw a lot of people just not carrying. I'm just going to rush this roller so we can get it out that way. Saw a lot of people just not carrying power through the top here. So we're rolling to a 4, and then we're just breathing on that down elevator because we're low on airspeed, and so we don't want to push too hard and it just kind of pinch that top. And you want to carry that power all the way across the top so you can help keep that smooth radius across the top. And then this one was the next big one that we saw. A lot of really flat 45s on this goldfish, especially after it would look like this. And you can see how I lost all my 45-degree angle there on that 45. And what I think is happening there is just there's no input in that roll. You might get away with the aileron roll without doing any input, but left rudder down, maybe breathe on the down elevator, right rudder, and then you've got to have that right rudder. If you roll left, you can see how I actually kept my 45 that time. And then again, breathing on that elevator for that radius pull. So a lot of radius is being pinched, just in general, especially in this maneuver, the Humpty, the teardrop, but especially this one, because you've lost all your airspeed. You can see how much rudder I'm carrying into that to keep that 45. And now when I start my pull, I'm just going to breathe on it, because you got gravity helping you pull that radius. So you're just breathing on that elevator. Then you're going to have to kind of increase it just ever so slightly as you come around the bottom. But then you bring your throttle back in and prepare for the next 45. So I hope I'm describing that to where it makes some sense. I'll try to show you let me just do a regular, like a reverse half Cuban, so you can see the difference. This time I'm going to, so we see a lot of this, and then we see a lot of this. You see how that's pinched and short. See it in almost all the classes. And so what you want to do, anytime you're pulling that radius from the top of a vertical or a 45, once you've flown your 45, you're just breathing on that, and you're carrying power all the way until that nose breaks level flight. And you can see how that one was much more round and much more consistent of a radius. That's definitely a big one that we saw. So on the Goldfish, really establish that 45. You may need some rudder on that aileron roll, but you definitely need the rudder on that 45. I mean that 4 of 8. And then we're just breathing on that elevator as we come across the top. We're using gravity and airspeed to help us with the radius there across the top. And make sure you're carrying that power until you cross level flight. Once that nose breaks the horizon, then you can start pulling your throttle back. So we'll do it one more time. 45, roll. We'll fly the 45 out. Then we're just breathing on that elevator. We're letting the gravity and throttle carry us through that top. Then once the nose breaks level flight, then I can come back to idle, let the airspeed build as I lose altitude. And then I start to slowly bring my power back in to finish this radius and get ready for the 45 going back up. The spin is pretty much the same critique as I've got for basic and sportsman. There's not a lot of patience. We're not waiting for that break right there, then spinning. We saw a lot of spins deadly close to being a 0 because they were winging over or forcing the entry to the spin. And then again, just like all the other 45s, making sure that it's steep enough. But I can't harp on that spin enough, especially in the wind. You pull that power back and you're just easing the elevator in to increase that angle of attack. Nose breaks, then you can spin. When there's a lot of wind, it takes a lot of patience. And we see a lot of people just kind of, they think they're there and then they just do this number. And that's a 0. So I harp on it all the time with our guys on the team when we're practicing. Just be patient. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. There's the break. Then I can spin. How many times you need to spin. And then reestablishing that down line, especially in the intermediate sequence. Reestablishing that down line and then pulling your 45. and finishing that bow tie maneuver down there at the bottom. One thing that might help, I've got, just as the roller, I've got a condition. I flip a switch to get to my spin rate, and that spin rate gives me more elevator and more rudder and just a little bit less aileron. That more elevator really helps you, especially if you got downline mixes. Make sure if you set up a switch for a spin that you don't have your downline mix tied to that switch, so that as you're pulling throttle back, you're not actually accidentally inducing down elevator, which is prohibiting you from really getting that nose up, really increasing that angle of attack to get the plane to stall. So if you don't have enough elevator throw, which the sim's gonna let me get away with it, but if you don't have enough elevator throw, you're not going to get the nose up enough. You're not going to increase that angle of attack enough to really stall the wing, and then the plane's just kind of mushing. It's kind of holding that slightly nose high attitude, and it's just losing altitude. And then people panic and they wing it over. So it just kind of looks like let me see if I can replicate it. It just kind of looks like this. We're just losing altitude, and then they're like, oh, and then they just force it. So I highly encourage you, have a switch that you flip to for your spin. Increase the elevator and rudder. You might not need much, again, but almost everybody could stand to have just a little bit more elevator for that spin, so you can really increase that angle of attack and get that pitch break like that. And I'll go over more in detail on that with the when I do the setup video. And then that kind of leads to, you want to make sure that that bow tie, that 45 on that bow tie is tall enough so that you have enough altitude for this down teardrop. So I'm just going to act like we just finished the spin, and I'm going to pull the 45. This 45 needs to be nice and long, especially if you struggle with getting your 45s steep enough. If you're too shallow on that 45, you're not going to have the altitude that you need for this down teardrop. There's a lot of altitude needed for this down teardrop, especially if you get a correctly angled 45 there. You need this altitude to be able to safely and smoothly pull that radius across the bottom, so that you can present the down teardrop correct, or present it better, present it well. I think that's about all I had. Oh yeah, the one of the other things was in and out flying. So starting on one line and ending up on another line, in to out, and a lot of that is contributed to not being wings level. We discussed this in our other videos, so I encourage you to go back and watch those, even if you're not in basic or sportsman. But if I'm flying along like this and I'm not wings level, just that ever so slightly, that's probably like 5 degrees right there. It's not even hardly anything. But if I pull, now I'm not correcting, so you can see how off that is. And then I pull again, now I've just exaggerated it even more. And then if my wings aren't level when I pull my back to upright, now the nose is more out. It's not on that path that we started on. If there's nothing you take away from any of my videos, wings level is the #1 tip that I can give you for flying IMAC and flying precision, better precision maneuvers in the sequences. Wings level, then pull. Do whatever you can to make sure those wings are level all the way through the maneuver too. If you notice they're a little bit off and you start, fix it in the radius, fix it in your pull, so that my wings are level right there. And so when I pull, I'm back to exactly where I started. If I a little bit off, and I pull. Look how exaggerated that is. I'm headed straight out to the outside of the box, and then I pull again, and I've straightened it up now, but now I'm 500 feet further out than I was when I started. So we saw a lot of that, a lot of in to out flying, not holding a line, and that's one of the biggest contributors. My full scale instructor used to always, every time as soon as we took off, wings level, ball centered. Well, we don't have a ball in RC for coordination, but if you could just hear my instructor's voice every time you fly, before you pull any radius, wings level, then pull. Now my vertical's better, it's straighter, wings level, pull. Now my downline straighter, wings level, pull. Now I started on the exact same line, or I finished on the exact same line that I started. And if you can do that consistently throughout your flight, you won't have that big in to out swing. You won't start the sequence right there in front of you and end the sequence half a mile out the box. So I hope that helps. If you got any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to discuss anything IMAC precision flight related. And if I don't have the answer, I will get the answer for you. So we'll see you on the next one. Take care.